Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Kandid shop. We speaking on things you not. Just press play and let it rock. Hey, welcome to the Kandid shop. Whoa, welcome to the Kandid shop. We speaking on things you not. Just press play and let it rock. Hey, welcome to the Kandid shop. Feel like we going through mad things. Gotta keep it real when they choose not. We gon' talk about it when the news drop. Welcome to the show where you know we don't fake this. Keep your opinion to yourself if it don't make sense.
Hey, 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 podcast family. It's your girl, Candidly Kristen, and this is the Kandid Shop, your number one destination for candid conversations. Today, I am having a long overdue candid chat about the highly stigmatized topic of infertility. And I am joined for this important discussion by speaker, transformational coach, best-selling author of Overcoming the Emotional Stigmas of Infertility, Barren But Not Ashamed, and founder of Heart Desires Fulfillment Coaching, LLC, Frances Jones. Welcome, 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 Frances, to the Candid Shop. I'm so happy to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Awesome, awesome. So, infertility is a subject that most people avoid talking about like the plague.
Mm.
Or if they're not avoiding it, then they're saying something completely insensitive to someone struggling to conceive. So, I really wanted to have this conversation and hopefully change the mindset and break down some of the stigma around infertility.
So thank you for allowing me to be here to talk about this topic because it is so crucial to bring healing and awareness to the communities that we who are dealing with infertility live and thrive in every day. Yes, there are stigmas there, there's embarrassment there's the shame of being judged or the fear of being judged and criticized.
Hmm.
And there are those who have never experienced infertility personally that really don't understand what we who are experiencing on a daily basis actually go through. So yes, I would love to be able to share and bring light from my perspective and personal experiences with
Yeah.
that topic.
Yes, and because I am not among the thousands upon thousands of women, couples, and men trying to, that deal with infertility, I thought it really important to not only have someone who had expertise in this subject, but someone who had lived experience with it. So I am a researcher. I love data. So I found a few stats and I wanted to start with those, and then we'll get into this conversation. So, in the US, among heterosexual women aged 15 to 49 years old with no prior births, about 1 in 5 or 19% are unable to get pregnant after 1 year of trying. Additionally, about 1 in 4, 26% of the women in this group have difficulty getting pregnant or carrying a pregnancy to term. So, Frances, if you would briefly share your story of infertility with me and my listeners.
Okay, thank you. Well, this has been over a 20-year journey for me. I came from a very fertile family. My mom conceived 10 times. She had another sister that conceived 10 times, another one that's conceived seven.
Mm.
All of my sisters have children. All of my adult nieces, with the exception of one who will be trying relatively soon, were
Mhm.
able to conceive. But I was the only one who turned out to be the word barren.
Mm.
And that was a very difficult thing for me because I always wanted to have a big family. I
Yeah.
always wanted to take that which my parents instilled into me and instill it into the children that the Lord I hope would allow me to have.
Right.
But that didn't happen that way. And because of my inability to conceive, I self-inflicted myself with a lot of heartache and negativity because I looked at myself as damaged goods and I thought I was less than a woman, that I really wasn't a real woman
Right.
because I connected being a woman with being able to conceive.
Mhm.
And so because of all that heartache, I hid my true emotions under a mask. I didn't really even share, the depth of the emotions that I was going through and the stigmas that I was dealing with. My husband didn't even know the depth of it, but I was able to come to a place where I found peace with infertility, and that's why I'm sharing my story so openly now.
Nice. So, can we talk a little bit about the causes of infertility? I know that they're probably various and numerous, but just some of the causes of infertility, why it is that couples are unable to conceive.
Well, I would like to level set and put the disclaimer that I am not a medical professional.
Mhm.
I am speaking from my own personal experiences and knowledge that I have gained through this 20-year journey. But it really differs with an individual. I would first like to speak on myself. I was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis, low egg reserve, and low egg count. I
Okay.
was not able to conceive because my body just was overrun with adhesions and lesions and a lot of scarring there. And
Mhm.
so, because of the age that I was when I found out about the endometriosis, it lessened my ability, my chances of conceiving.
Right.
So, what caused that? Um, Honestly, I really don't know what caused it medically, so to speak, because, um, like I said, I came from a fertile family, so no one else in my family dealt with the endometriosis.
Mm.
But what I do believe is because when I was dealing with the heavy cycles and the tremendous pain, I
Mhm.
didn't speak up and I didn't speak out.
Okay.
I thought that was normal.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that my crawling from one room to another literally was a sign, a red flag that there was something that was going on in my body. And because that was such a private topic, it wasn't really discussed openly in my family. So I
Mhm.
didn't share it with anybody. So I can speak for myself. What I believe is that there were things going on in my body I did not understand. I
Mhm.
did not take proactive steps to find out what those things were.
Mhm.
And so I believe that maybe others are dealing with that. We take a lot of things for granted, what goes on in our bodies. And some of us, we have heavy cycles, but we think it's normal. And
Right.
some of us are dealing with things that just pop up. Some people deal with endometriosis because, or not endometriosis, I'm sorry, infertility, because there's been a cancer diagnosis or some other health thing that
Mm.
caused damage in the body and the person wasn't able to conceive.
Right.
Some of us are dealing with just waiting too late to
Yeah.
try to conceive. We put our careers first, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we don't forethink that, wow, later on in my life, after I get established in my career, there may be things that could cause me or inhibit my ability to have children. And
Yeah.
so it's just being aware of, what really goes on in the body and what could potentially impact the ability to have children, and start doing homework and research and even talking to doctors earlier on if that's something that a person desires to do.
Right. I agree with all of that. When you were telling your story earlier, you mentioned the range of emotions. So, um, I wanted to talk a little bit about the impact of infertility on mental health of the woman. We're going to talk a little bit about men in a minute, but right now I'm talking about on the woman who is trying to conceive and just can't. Some of the mental health issues that can arise from that struggle.
Yeah, so I first will start with myself because, of course, that's what I know the best.
Right.
But for me personally, when when I was 19 years old,
Hmm.
I had a friend, an acquaintance that, she came from a large family as well. And she asked me, did I want to have children? We're just having a conversation. I said, sure. And she asked me how many I wanted. And I told her I wanted to have 5 children. And she was so floored. And she asked me, wow, you really want to have 5 kids? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And then she said to me something that changed my life. She said, you're a real woman.
Hmm.
Now, I beamed with pride because I know I came from a long line of women who were able to bring forth a lot of children, and I knew they were real women. And
Hmm.
so I said, okay, cool. This is where I want to go. But when I got to the point where I was having trouble having a child, those memories began to haunt me. That,
Mm.
wow, you're not a real woman because you can't even have 5 children, let alone even thinking about having. You can't even have one.
Right.
And so then I'm looking at the fact that when I was about to marry my husband, his father pulled me aside and gave me a father-daughter in law soon to be talk. And
Mhm.
he told me how much his son loved children. And he was like, you know what I'm trying to tell you, right? And so now here it is. My husband wants to have a lot of kids. I can't have them. I'm thinking I'm not a real woman. I'm thinking
Mhm.
I'm damaged goods. And so with all those negative emotions going on, I didn't get into a state of depression, but I got into a state of low self esteem, and I
Mhm.
lost myself and I devalued myself
Mhm.
because I felt like I was the oddball out and that I had done something to cause what was going on in my life. And so that weighed heavily on me, and not being able to talk about it because I didn't think anybody would really understand unless you actually physically go through it. It's
Mhm.
hard to understand. So there's a lot of negativity. There's anger and there's heartache and there's distraught. So many things. And there are women who won't even go to baby showers because they don't want to be
Yeah.
reminded of what they don't have. So
Yeah.
it's a hard battle to deal with.
I'm sure. I'm sure. So you mentioned your husband, so that's a great, great segue into this the male side of the infertility conversation. Men are really, really, really all too often left out of these conversations completely. But male factors cause infertility probably a half of the time. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the lack of attentiveness, the lack of bringing men into the conversation, and men's specific support needs when it comes to infertility, whether the infertility is a male factor or just that their wife can't conceive and they're unable to, have a family.
Yeah, it's almost like a double-edged sword, right? So you got the male that wants desperately to give their wife a child,
Right.
but for whatever reason cannot.
Hmm.
And so you think about the challenge of that man's virility,
Hmm.
masculinity,
Yeah.
and the shame and heartache that that man potentially could be carrying on his shoulder because he could have great concerns that his wife may want to divorce him because he's not able to give her the child she so desperately wants.
Hmm.
And there are several couples that actually get divorced because of these type of things. But then on the flip side, you have the woman who desperately wants to have a child, but the man just don't get it.
Hmm.
They want the child as well, but it's not their bodies that's going through the treatments. And if there's in vitro fertilization that's going on, it's not the male's eggs that, of course, because they don't have them, right? But it's
Right.
not the male's body that's being challenged to get the eggs out and all of these different things. And some men, may not have a desire to or the ability to be with the wife while she's going through the treatments and going to the doctors. And so that woman could very well feel left out and alone
Right.
because her spouse is not present like she needs him to be.
Right.
But more importantly, if she's not really communicating what she needs, he doesn't know how to be there for her.
Right.
And it may be a point where she's communicating, but he just doesn't understand it because he's just not getting it. With my husband, he is a true champion for me.
Mm.
He supported me and he was there. But the thing about it is, he had a biological daughter. So
Mm.
in my mind, he never really understood what it feels like to desire to conceive a child and not be able to.
Right.
He was supportive, but he just didn't get it. He
Right.
loved me, but he just didn't understand. And so it's just being able to be open and have those hard conversations in love.
Hmm.
I must say that in love. Have
Hmm.
those hard conversations and those truthful conversations so each individual who's involved can actually understand what that other person is feeling and experiencing.
Yes, communication, 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 honest communication about how
Yes.
you're feeling about it, because I think sometimes there's anger. If there's a
Mhm.
guy who really wants kids and the wife is just not able, and he's mad at himself because he's mad at her and doesn't know how to express it. Just such a huge range of emotions and feelings on both sides. So you mentioned IVF, in vitro fertilization, and
Mm.
I know the only things I know about IVF are, and these might not even be true, it's expensive and it's painful for the person that has to do the shots and all the things. So can you talk? I don't know if you tried IVF, um, and what your experience was with it, and if you didn't, um, what is your uh, opinion, thoughts on in vitro fertilization or IVF?
Okay. So, no, I was not able to try in vitro. My husband and I, we had hoped that we would,
Hmm.
but because of finances, that was not an option for
Okay.
us. But I have coached women and had support groups with women who have gone through in vitro, and from what I hear, yes, it's a painful experience. Now I don't know, is more so the egg retrieval part that's more painful than anything. I would probably guess that that would be it. When I was going through my fertility treatments, I did artificial insemination, IUI, intramural. I always get that word. I can't get it out of my mouth.
Hmm.
Insemination, but but that was not painful in that sense. I mean, I had to inject myself with different medicines and different things like that. It was nerve-wracking
Yeah.
because you wasn't sure if you were doing it right, and all of the things that went around that. But in vitro is expensive.
Hmm.
Um, and I've been told that it's not the most comfortable feeling. But the thing about it is when you want something so desperately, you will put yourself in a place of uncomfortableness in order
Hmm.
to get it. And I say that even though I didn't do in vitro, but I was um, trying to be healed of stage 4 endometriosis. And what happened with me is that I had to go on Lupron for several months.
Hmm.
And Lupron basically was putting me in menopause.
Mm.
And so some of the side effects that I experienced was pain in my legs and walking up and down stairs. That was very painful for me. But I was willing to take that pain because I wanted that child that badly. And so when a person wants something so badly, they will be willing to sacrifice their own levels of comfort in order
Yeah.
to get.
Yes, yes, we are. And especially we as women,
Yes.
we will do that quickly. Um, so I want to talk a little bit because there's so many myths about infertility and so much stigma. I wanted to do some myth busting. So I there were so many, but I just picked five. So first myth surrounding infertility is it's always the woman's fault. Well, we know that's not true.
That's
Uh,
definitely not true.
Not true. The second myth is using birth control can cause infertility. Have you ever heard that one?
um, I have heard that. I've seen readings where they said that's not true.
Hmm.
I cannot medically speak because I don't know what how a person genetics are.
Right, right.
And so there could be something that's with the birth control pill.
Hmm.
If a person stays on it too long,
Okay.
potentially could impact that. I cannot say that, and I'm not saying that that is the case. So I don't really know.
All right. So the third one, and I thought this was funny. If a man can ejaculate, then he is not infertile. I don't know where people get this mess from. Okay. We know.
Um, I don't know where that came from either because it has nothing to do with the ability to ejaculate.
Right.
It's about the strength of the sperm and the motility of it
Hmm.
more so. So, yeah, I don't think that's accurate, but I cannot say that with 100%
Right.
certainty.
And yes, we are not medical doctors.
Mm-mm, and this is not advice.
This is not advice, okay? Certain sex positions improve your odds of getting pregnant. I used to hear that. I used to hear and I thought, really? Huh?
What I used to hear is certain positions would
Keep
um
you from getting pregnant.
no, that would help you to determine the gender
Really?
of the child. Yes, I
Huh.
have heard that.
Wow. And the last myth, which we know is absolutely false, is infertility is always fixable.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely false.
And so that just goes to show the myths and the falsehoods that are out there surrounding this subject. People look at this list and might believe this. Like I got this from a IVF clinic, and it had myths. They had like, oh God, there were so many. So I just picked like five, and I thought, wow, people walking into the office to get help for infertility may be coming in with these five or another 5 or 10 things floating around in their head that they've heard. That's just not true. So I just wanted to get that out there. But again, not medical doctors, and every body situation is different. Every body individually is different. Their genetics are different. Their environment is different. So um, I wanted you to please give me and my listeners the do's and don'ts when you are in a conversation with someone that's, trying to conceive, struggling to conceive, because there are some really insensitive things that people can say in an effort to, I don't know, relate, engage, or just uh, even be supportive that just don't help. So,
Yeah, one of the biggest ones is that just relax. It'll happen. Well, that's almost like saying, "Oh wow, just wait for the rain. One day it'll come." And so, you know, it's difficult telling someone who's going through that type of a challenge to just relax.
yeah,
And I know a lot of times we have good intentions,
yes,
but we have to consider the receiver of that message.
hmm,
Um, and so if a person is already at a high level of stress because they just had a treatment cycle that was not productive,
right,
I'll use that word. Hearing, hey, just chill out is not going to help the person. But what I would say instead of that, ask the individual if they're willing to talk,
hmm,
how can I be there for you?
right,
How do you want the conversation to go? Are you even wanting to talk about this?
right,
Because the thing about it is that we naturally want to come in, especially women, we naturally
hmm,
want to come in and just comfort and hold and make it feel better.
right,
But we can't always do that. And so, gauging the individual, you know, like for me, I didn't really share.
right,
Sure, my family knew I was having challenges having children, but they didn't know I was seeking the type of treatment that I was seeking. Some didn't know I was seeking treatment at all.
right,
And so just looking at the fact that um, you may not even know a person is going through infertility, but if you have known that person, if you're a good friend, as an example, and you knew that person always talked about having children, but they
hmm.
don't have them, please don't go and ask them, when are you going to have kids?
Oh, yeah,
Please don't ask them, do you want kids?
right,
Please don't ask them, why don't you have kids? And please don't say, hey, well, there are a lot of children out there in the world that needs a family. Why don't you just go and adopt?
ah,
Now, the reason I'm saying that is because there are women who find that to be very insensitive because they feel like their true feelings are being overlooked.
right,
That people are, are not concerned about how that individual really feels. And yes, my husband and I adopted, and
okay,
we were grateful to adopt. No one ever suggested adoption to me until my husband said after. He finally saw, I went to him and told him, I believe it's time to give this up. And then he said, I believe the Lord would have us to adopt. And that's when I considered that, because I had never considered it. But to cast it aside, like adoption is a quick band-aid, a quick
Mm,
fix.
right,
And that all we want is a child in the house. Doesn't matter where that child comes from. We just want kids in the house.
right.
That's not necessarily the case. And the reason that I say that is my husband and I adopted two brothers, and they were both under the age of 5. And I had a stepdaughter that my husband and I raised together full time.
Hmm.
But 9 years later, after their adoption was final, I woke up crying, asking God, why was I never able to have children? So if just having kids in the house was what was the fix,
Right.
it didn't fix me.
It didn't.
And
Right.
so I just want people to understand that it's more than just having kids in the house. It's
Yes.
about being denied, at least for me, it was about being denied the ability to carry forth life.
Yes.
And that's something that unless you really have experienced that denial, you may never understand what that feels like.
Yep.
So we want to be aware of the things that we say and
Hmm.
be conscious that our words could be hurting someone that we say we love.
Yes.
So have compassion and sensitivity in those conversations. And like I said, ask the individual, how can I be there for you? If they don't want to talk about it, don't force the conversation,
Right.
and try to be a person who really is championing them where they are right then.
Right.
Because they could be having a bad day, and having that conversation just wasn't the right day. Could be the right message, but not the right time.
Hmm.
So we have to consider several factors.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your book, Overcoming the Emotional Stigmas of Infertility, Barren But Not Ashamed. Was Did you write the book to a particular audience? Was it simply your form of healing? When did the book come about? Those kinds of things.
Okay. So I actually had no intention of sharing
Mhm.
my infertility story, none whatsoever. I'm a very private person. And I had actually started writing rather a fictional love story. And one day I'll finish that story.
Okay.
But after I went through the challenges and the negative emotions and the stigmas surrounding my personal infertility journey, and I was able to come out of that and found peace and happiness in the face of infertility, I realized there were others who were yet stuck, that were still going through what I had gone through. And I decided to share my story because if I could just help one person, it's worth opening up, so to speak, the curtains of my life.
Yes.
And so I began sharing that story and writing that book simply because I wanted to have a healing agent to help someone else to get past the issues and concerns and heartache and stigmas that's connected with infertility. It was simply to just help somebody else because I knew what I had experienced. And if anybody had gone through what I had gone through, and if, like I said, if they could find peace and comfort in knowing that how, while somebody gets it, hey,
Hmm.
that's my story and her story, then it
Yep.
was worth it. And so that's why I wrote the book. And I tell it all. Honestly, I tell the different segments of my life and why I felt the way I felt and what caused me to hurt the way I hurt and why I inflicted my own heartache. I tell it all because I feel like if I can't be real about my story, then I'm not really trying to help anybody.
Right. Right.
And so like I said, I cast all of my reservations aside in order to to help somebody else.
Awesome. And I'm sure it did. And to whoever's listening, the link for her book will be in the show notes. So let's pivot a little bit, and I want you to talk to me about Heart Desires Fulfillment LLC, what you do, the why of it. Just give me the rundown about what you do at Heart Desires. I love that name, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So Heart Desires Fulfillment Coaching LLC, that basically was birthed from my inability to have children. And that was one of my heart's desires.
Mm,
And so I know that there are many, many, many individuals, and maybe some of you listening right now fall in this category, that there are things in your heart that you truly want and you want to fulfill. But for whatever reason, you're not going after those things. You maybe it's a lack of confidence. It's not just about infertility, it's about any heart desires.
mm,
Because I was reading the scripture one day and I read how God said he would give us our heart's desires. And so I realized in order to have your heart desires, they have to be fulfilled. Many
mhm.
of us are believing for things, but those things are not actually being fulfilled in their lives.
Right,
And so that's why I created that company. That's where the name came from. And so there's two sides of my coaching practice, but they all fall under one umbrella, and it's transformational coaching.
okay,
Because before we can actually receive the wonderful things that we desire, we have to identify what's blocking us from doing it.
mm,
And so being able to identify the blocks, and maybe it's a fear of failure. Maybe somebody doesn't believe in us, and because they don't believe in us, we don't believe in ourselves. Maybe because we're trying to do what our parents want us to do, and we're not really going after our heart's desires. See, for me personally, even before infertility stepped into my life, there was a void in my life. I
mm,
felt that I was supposed to help people on a very personal level, but I didn't know how and I didn't know what that would look like. And
right,
so I walked around for years having a great career, but having a void in my life. And so I started that company to be able to help those who are yet stuck in their lives, regardless of what that stuck looked like,
right,
to be able to move forward, to go after the wonderful things that they so deserve. So, for those of you listening, you deserve to have a great life. You
mhm,
deserve to have your heart desires fulfilled. Not just have them in your heart, but actually have them fulfilled. You are important and your desires are important. And so that's what heart desires fulfillment coaching is about. Infertility is one part, transformational coaching is the other, but it all falls in the same umbrella, helping you to unlock your heart desires one step at a time.
I love it. I love it. I usually ask for last thoughts from my guests for the listeners, but that was it. So you did said that so perfectly. I don't even there's no follow up for that except for you to let my listeners know how they can connect with you and Heart Desires Fulfillment Coaching.
Okay, awesome. So, in order to connect with me, you can go to my website, which is www.heart, HEART, desires, DESIRES, coaching, COACHING.com. There's a form that you can fill out and connect with me and follow me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and my logo or lingo or handle. That's the word I'm looking
Yep,
for.
handle.
Handle is is Heart Desires Coaching. I'm on Twitter, which is Heart Desires FC. I'm on TikTok, which is Arthur.Francis Jones. I'm on LinkedIn, Francis Jones One. And if you're interested in getting the book, Heart Overcoming the Emotional Stigmas of Infertility, Barren But Not Ashamed, I'm all over the internet. You can get it
Mhm.
on basically every online retail, but you can also get it at Amazon.com. And I would just love to be able to talk with you and help you to figure out if you want your heart desires fulfilled, how you can get that done.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And guys, if you didn't have a pen and paper or she was going too fast, all of Francis and Heart Desires Fulfillment Coaching info will be in the show notes with clickable links so you don't have to hunt around for it. You can just click right in the show notes and get popped over. Francis Jones, I just want to thank you, number one, for giving me your time today to sit down and talk about what is, it's not an easy topic, no matter who you are, the person that is having trouble conceiving or somebody like me to talk about. So I thank you for that. I want to thank you for the book that I'm sure has helped and will help a bunch of people. and for sharing your story with me and my listeners. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you again.
Oh, you are most welcome. And I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you and your audience. If I can help just one person, it's all worthwhile. And all of us, we're dealing with a challenge. All of us are.
Absolutely.
And so there's hope and there's light at the end of your challenge. Just keep moving forward, keep believing, and just know that nothing too great is impossible for you. It may not come the way that you're looking for it, but if you just keep believing, you will find that peace in life and love and hope that you're looking for.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. This is why I do what I do. I podcast with a purpose, and my purpose is to put people like you in front of my listeners so that people can get the help, the support that they need, the information, whatever it is. That's my job. That's what I do. Um,
Awesome.
so thank you again, Frances, guys. Her contact info again will be in the show notes. We are on hiatus right now, so this is being recorded during hiatus time to be put out in season 3, which will launch in February on the anniversary of the podcast. And in the meantime, go visit the website, www.thecandidshop, candid with a K.com. Check out some past episodes, subscribe, leave me a review, drop me some topic suggestions, leave me a voicemail, and share the show with your friends and family. Make sure you're following me on Facebook and IG. I'm everywhere at the Kandid Shop Podcast, Kandid with a K. And until next time, I want you all to keep it safe, keep it healthy, and keep it candid.
Infertility is a word that a lot of people are ashamed to mention. A lot of people are so illiterate when it comes to that word that they act as if it's a crime if a woman don't have a child. But I don't think so. I don't have a child. I may one day, but in the meantime, I'm gonna share my love. Not having a child don't make me any less than a woman. 'Cause I got so much love to give to so much unwanted kids. You can say all you want about me, try and ruin my reputation. I still got so much love to give to so much unwanted kids. Listen to my song. I may not know the joy of giving birth, may not experience the pain and all the hurt, but I know how it feels to lose a child. And if pain is pain, then I'm hurting inside. If infertility make me less than a girl, what would you say to many women in this world? Would you tell them have faith? Would you tell them be strong? Or would you tell them that they're less than a woman? Not having a child don't make me any less than a woman. You see, I got so much love to give to so much unwanted kids. You can say all you want about me, try and ruin my reputation. I still got so much love to give to so much unwanted kids. Listen to my song. I would give anything to have a child of my own, but in the meantime, let me share my happy home. To the less fortunate, take away some of the stress from a child who has never known love and happiness. Miscarriages remind me of baby carriages, of broken heart, short flings, failed marriages. The pain never go away, we try to keep them at bay. Oh, I wish if my baby had stayed. You see, not having a child don't make me any less than a woman. You see, I got so much love to give to so much unwanted kids. You can say all you want about me, try and ruin my reputation. I still got so much love to give to so much unwanted kids. Listen to my song. Some people have kids and wish them never did. Some kids grew up hating the life where them live. Some have it easy, some have it hard. Some others abandon them people like that. But wanty, them can't get it and get it and run well heavy. Me no have none, so you know me will take it. Me have a lot of love, so send me little Becky and not having a child don't make me any You can say all you want about me trying